So Joe Biden is continuing to cement his legacy as he continues to close out the final days of his presidency. And I know that everybody is seeing this all across YouTube and the podcast, universe, but Hunter Biden has just been pardoned by his father after repeated denials that he would ever do so. So let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm your host, Barrett McNabb. Now, this is absolutely incredible, and we're going to set some context, and we're going to provide a couple of things that probably some other YouTube videos are not covering, but let's go ahead and watch a little bit of context. And Cassie Hunt, she's so bemused and in shock about this, she can't even read from the teleprompter. So let's take a quick look.
The Biden Justice Department has been politicized. That's the message this morning from not just Donald Trump, but from President Joe Biden himself. The president issuing a full and unconditional pardon to his son Hunter after repeatedly insisting in public that he wouldn't do it. And to defend his decision, the president adopted an argument that could have come straight out of Donald Trump's playbook. Blame your political opponents and claim unfair persecution. President Biden said this, quote, "The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election." The president adding, quote, "No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he is my son. And that is wrong," end quote. President Biden pardoning his son not just for the gun crimes for which he was convicted and not just for the tax crimes for which he pled guilty. Instead, Biden gave his son an extraordinarily sweeping pardon for any and all crimes he committed, may have committed, or even merely been involved in at any point in the last 10 years. That broad language, unlike any in recent history and reminiscent only of President Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon for, quote, all offenses against the United States, end quote, that the former president had or may have committed during his entire presidency. Trying to explain his decision to Americans, President Biden made a personal appeal. He said this, quote, "I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision," he said last night. Understand? Americans might, though they'll have to be forgiven for thinking that all of this was off the table.
Is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well,
I just said no. I just answered.
When would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
You said before that the president would not pardon his son. Is that still the case?
Nothing has changed. That is still the case.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
I could speak for the president, and he said he would not pardon his son.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
Well, it stood until last night.
Wow. So, here we go. So Hunter Biden, let's back up. Let's back up to really kind of what all of this happened. If you look at the pardon, it goes back all the way to 2014. That's 10 years of time, okay? Now, the big thing to note is that Joe Biden left it so vague and overarching that it covers everything. So any crime or that he's been convicted of or not yet been charged, everything goes away in the past 10 years. So let's back up and find out how, Hunter Biden got these convictions, and it was the Justice Department that was doing it. So Hunter Biden, in a drug-induced, stupor, goes and buys a handgun. And on the form that you fill out in order to purchase a handgun at the gun dealer, you have to check a box that says that you are not a user of drugs. Okay, so He was a rampant abuser of drugs. In his memoirs, he has stated of his own accord that he has been a heavy user of drugs and was an addict. But he put no, that he did not use drugs, and so he lied on this federal form in order to acquire a firearm. Now, when his wife at the time found the firearm, she went and threw it in a dumpster, and then he sent her back to go retrieve it, and it was gone. Somebody had grabbed it out of the dumpster, and it found its way into the police, and so he got caught for this gun charge. Now, also during kind of this same period of time, Hunter Biden just decided not to pay his federal income taxes. Hey, why not? My dad's the vice president or the president. I don't have to pay any of my federal income taxes. So he got caught, and it was about $1.7 million that he had neglected to pay. And that's not how much he earned. That's how much of the tax dollars that he had to pay back. And so he was being charged on that as well. In Ukraine, he had a board seat in a gas energy company in Ukraine, of which he has no experience in business, no experience in the oil and gas industry, but yet somehow he found himself on the board of directors for this Ukrainian company. And during that period of time, he was drawing a huge salary. Now, President Trump wanted to investigate Hunter Biden on this, and this is kind of where all this Russian disinformation came about, because Joe Biden, said, "Hey, look, I'm going to fire the prosecutor," when he was the vice president, and he that was investigating his son, investigating the company, and he demanded that the prosecutor be fired. Trump wanted to find out more information about that, and he was going to withhold aid to Ukraine, and it was just this giant debacle. The telephone call was recorded. He got impeached for trying to withhold aid and influence, a foreign government and things like that. Now, he was impeached, but then he was found not guilty in the Senate trial. So that was kind of a big, giant nothing burger. But still, the fact that Hunter Biden got this job and Trump wanted it investigated, that was back in 2014. Okay, so now we're starting to paint the picture of what's going on. Also, during this time period, because Ukraine and energy didn't work out, Hunter Biden went to China and got on a bunch of boards for Chinese companies, and was talking about making payments to the big guy, and that if he didn't get what he wanted, he was going to have a very long memory, and he was going to have the big guy go after him. Now, everybody understands that the big guy is President Joe Biden. Okay, so we know that. Now, with the gun charge, he decided to take a plea deal and plead guilty to a lesser crime and have it go in front of a judge. The judge took a look at it, and what they were trying to do, the defense attorneys, was have the tax charges put in there as well, and that he would get immunity. So by pleading guilty to the gun charge, which was reduced, he would have immunity on a wide variety of crimes. Now, the judge looked at this and said, "Hey, this is a gun charge case, or lying on a federal form for purchasing a firearm case. And what does all this tax stuff have to do with it?" And she asked the prosecutor, "Hey, are you intending to provide blanket immunity for all crimes for him pleading guilty to this gun crime?" And the prosecutor said no. And the defense attorney said, "Oh man, we are withdrawing our plea, because it was our understanding that he was going to have blanket immunity, which would have covered all those tax fraud. It would have covered the Ukraine, board seat. It would cover the Chinese, shenanigans that were going on, and include his paintings that he was selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, of which he has no talent." So the judge said, "Well, if this is not the case, then you can't throw all this blanket immunity stuff." So Hunter Biden withdrew his guilty plea and decided to go to trial because he wasn't going to have this blanket immunity, which is what he wanted. Now, he was found guilty on the gun charge for lying on the form, and he should have been because he was using drugs. It was proven that he was using drugs. He admitted he was using drugs, and he filled out the form incorrectly. Now, he was the trial is going on for his tax evasion, and he has not been sentenced there yet. And so with that, Joe Biden, President of the United States, in cementing his legacy, and you saw just how many times he said that he was not going to pardon his son, jumped in and pardoned his son. Now, the reason that he did that is because the federal prosecutors were not going to include the blanket immunity that the defense attorneys wanted in there. So that would have effectively been the pardon. But with Biden jumping in and saying, look, anything that he may have done during that 10-year period, I'm going to go ahead and pardon as well. So there's crimes out there that we don't even know about, and the only people that know about them are Hunter Biden and Joe Biden just took care of that. Now here's the big kicker. So we have the Supreme Court case that says that presidents are immune to prosecution when conducting official acts, right? Well, during this period in 2014, Joe Biden was the vice president. And during 2016, 2017, 2018, Joe Biden was a citizen. He was neither a vice president and he hadn't been elected president yet. But his son was still running around using his father's name in order to curry favors all over the world, collecting big, giant sums of cash. And there's going to be an investigation, or there would have been an investigation. So now when Hunter Biden gets grabbed up and says, look, you need to provide us information about your father and the business dealings, he can say, Fifth Amendment, I'm not doing anything because I have been completely absolved with this pardon for any of the shenanigans that I did for the past 10 years. Go find somebody else. Well, if you normally have a witness and you get that witness to testify against somebody else for a lesser sentence or immunity, he already has it. Hunter Biden now has that immunity. And so I think not only did Joe Biden do this to protect his son, even though he said he would not do it, he's a liar. He lies about multiple things. The border is secure. Liar. The economy is doing well. Liar. So this big thing, he's protecting himself. Joe Biden pardoning Hunter Biden protects Joe Biden because now Hunter can't be leveraged, the addict, can't be leveraged to testify or provide information about his father during the periods of time that he was not the president of the United States, i.e. from 2014 when he was the vice president and from 2016 all the way until 2020 when he was a normal citizen, a regular citizen. So this is why it is so interesting that that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter for any and all crimes that are named, known, or unknown during this past 10 years. Hunter Biden just got a huge get-out-of-jail-free card for all of the stuff that he did. And let's just talk about Hunter Biden's character. Not only was he a drug addict, but he got his father, who was the vice president at the time, Joe Biden, to get a waiver for him to become an officer in the Navy Reserves. He showed up to his first drill, and they did a drug test, and he pissed hot on cocaine and immediately got kicked out of the Navy. So thanks, Dad, for getting me that, and now he's out of the Navy. So his brother passed away. All right, so Beau Biden passed away from brain cancer. He was the Attorney General from Delaware, and Hunter Biden, the stand-up guy that he is, starts banging the widow of his brother's wife, his widow, and is having an affair with his dead brother's wife. I mean, talk about class. You have all of the prostitution that's going on. He impregnated a stripper out of wedlock and had a daughter, and just fought tooth and nail to make sure that the child was not his. The state of Arkansas made him take a DNA test. Boom, it was his child, and he owed so much child support. Joe Biden, for the longest time, refused to acknowledge this grandchild of his, had stockings all up on the White House, and just would say his six grandchildren. And hey, man, you have seven because you have a child that was born out of wedlock in the state of Arkansas. And finally, after a huge deal, and he announced it like on a Friday, so that the news cycle would die over the weekend. Oh yeah, hey, I have another granddaughter, and we wish her, Merry Christmas as well. So, and then the story died. But still, anyway, this is Hunter Biden. This is who he is, and he just got a big giant Christmas present way earlier than he should have. So, thanks for tuning in to Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.